Welcome back, Warrior. We are reading Doctrine and Covenants, section 52 today. We have a little bit of preface. So it says, in February 1831, the Lord told Joseph to call together a conference. The saints then held that conference in June 1831. This conference was a series of meetings that took place from June 3rd to 6th. We're coming up on June 3rd to 6th in our year now. And some important events took place, especially the ordination of the high priesthoods on some individuals. The section heading records, at this conference, the first distinctive ordinations to the conference of the high priests were made, and certain manifestations of false and deceiving spirits were discerned and rebuked. The records show that at this moment when the high priesthood was being given, Satan was there seeking to destroy the work. The Lord had promised that if they were faithful and assembled themselves together, that he would pour out my spirit upon them in the day that they assembled themselves together. Okay. When they held the conference in early June 1831, the Lord fulfilled that promise. John Whitmer explained what happened in these words. It says, okay, this is fancy text over here. Okay, June 3rd, so I might not be able to read it great. June 3rd, 1831. So June 3rd, 1831, a general conference was called and a blessing promised if the elders were faithful and humble before him. The Lord made manifest to Joseph that it was necessary that such of the elders as were considered worthy should be ordained to the high priesthood. After he had prophesied, he laid his hands upon Lyman White, ordained him to the high priesthood after the holy order of God, and the Spirit fell upon Lyman, and he prophesied concerning the coming of Christ. He saw the heavens opened and the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of the Father, making intercession for his brethren, the saints. He said that God would work a work in these last days that tongue cannot express and the mind is not capable to conceive. The glory of the Lord shone around. Joseph Smith Jr. prophesied the day previous that the man of sin should be revealed. While the Lord poured out his spirit upon his servants, the devil took a notion to make known his power. He bound Harvey Whitlock and John Murdoch so that they could not speak, and others were affected. But the Lord showed to Joseph the seer the design of the thing. He commanded the devil in the name of Christ, and he departed to our joy and comfort. That was John Whitmer. History, 1831, circa 1847. Chapter 7. You can find that in the josephsmithpapers.org. Okay. So here we go. We're going to read the summary now of section 52. Or not summary. What is it? Like the preface? It says, revelation given through Joseph Smith the prophet to the elders of the church of Kirtland, Ohio, June 6, 1831. Hey, Fredo. A conference had been held at Kirtland beginning on the 3rd and closing on the 6th of June. At this conference, the first distinctive ordinations to the office of high priest were made, and certain manifestations of false and deceiving spirits were discerned and rebuked. Okay, had to take my shoes off because my feet were hurting. All right, let's see. Here we go. Behold, thus saith the Lord unto the elders whom he hath called and chosen in these last days by the voice of his Spirit, saying, I, the Lord, will make known unto you what I will that ye shall do from this time until the next conference, which shall be held in Missouri upon the land which I will consecrate unto my people, which are a remnant of Jacob, and those who are heirs according to the covenant. Okay, so the saints were anxiously awaiting to find out where the Lord would have them build a Zion. Imagine the conversations they must have had as they tried to guess where it would be, right? Like, that's just like the speculation that goes around, you know. Just sometimes during general conference, there's always like, what are they going to talk about, you know? And so many things, like so many rumors of different things that they're going to do. So at this point, these were some of the things that they knew about Zion. It included they were to seek it to establish the cause of Zion. Joseph Smith was inspired to move the cause of Zion in mighty power. The location of the city of Zion was yet to be revealed. Zion was to be on the border by the Lamanites. It will be the New Jerusalem. The righteous will be gathered there. The wicked will fear Zion, and Zion will flourish before the second coming. So in verse 2, the Lord told the elders that their next conference will be in Missouri. Why will their next conference be in Missouri? The Lord declared that this is the land which I will consecrate unto my people. Okay. So what did the Lord mean by my people in verse 2? Who are his people? A remnant of Jacob and those who are heirs according to the covenant. This land is for the house of Israel, who need to be gathered to the land. The gathering will allow them to claim their blessings promised through the Abrahamic covenant. Okay, so verse 3, wherefore, verily I say unto you, let my servants Joseph Smith Jr. and Sidney Rigdon take their journey as soon as preparations can be made to leave their homes and journey to the land of Missouri. And inasmuch as they are faithful unto me, it shall be made known unto them what they shall do. And it shall also, inasmuch as they are faithful, be made known unto them the land of your inheritance. And inasmuch as they are not faithful, they shall be cut off, even as I will, as seemeth me good. And again, verily I say unto you, let my servant Lyman White and my servant John Corral take their journey speedily, and also my servant John Murdoch and my servant Hiram Smith take their journey unto the same place by the way of Detroit. And, my brother served there. And let them journey from his mission, and let them journey from thence, preaching the word by the way, saying none other things than that which the prophets and apostles have written, that which is taught them by the Comforter through the prayer of faith. Let them go 2 by 2, and thus let them preach by the way in every congregation, baptizing by water and the laying on of hands by the water's side. For thus saith the Lord, I will cut my work short in righteousness, for the days come that I will send forth judgment unto victory. Okay, so something that I think is really awesome is that he wanted them to go somewhere. There was an end destination, but not rush to go there, but to preach on the way there, right? And it's just kind of interesting to me that, like, this confirms that the Lord doesn't rush around to do things like we do. We rush around. But he doesn't rush around to do things. And it's like, hey, they can go 2 by 2, but preach by the way. Like on the way there, preach, baptize people on the way there. So it just is kind of neat to think like, you know what? As we are doing all the things that we need to do, let's preach on the way to do these things, right? And how can we preach? By our example. We can preach by saying our testimony. We can preach in so many different ways. Oh, okay, one second. Okay, so the Lord then called a number of men to journey to Missouri, okay, as soon as preparations can be made. First, Joseph and Sidney were to go to Missouri, and if faithful, it will be made known unto them the land of your inheritance, right? So meaning that if they were to go to Missouri, the Lord would reveal exactly where in Missouri. Lyman White and John Corral were also to go to Missouri, and John Murdoch and Hiram Smith were to go to Missouri. So by the way of Detroit, and preach the gospel as they go. Then the Lord tells them exactly what to teach. They were to say none other things than that which the prophets and apostles have written, and that which is taught them by the Comforter through the prayer of faith. So Joseph Fielding Smith wrote of his grandfather, Hiram, and this assignment he received in this section. So here it is. It says, Hiram Smith was faithful to this mission, and in the spirit of faith and humility made the journey. When we stop to consider that this journey was largely on foot and that it covered a distance almost as far as the pioneers traveled from Missouri River to the Salt Lake Valley, and that through and sparsely settled country, we begin to realize what the journey and this commandment meant to those faithful men. It was about the middle of July when these missionaries arrived in Jackson County. Wow, that's crazy. But also, it does go to show that, like, there was no other way to travel anyways, right? And so they needed to travel 2 by 2 and on foot. I guess you could travel on a horse back then, but on foot. Imagine that giant trip. Like we're taking a road trip to the Syracuse Temple, and that's going to take us like an hour 15 to get there. But like, what are we going to do on the way, right? What are we going to do on the way? And so it's like on the way, we're planning on listening to some good music, usually like Forrest Frank's Drive to Be, and then planning to have some snacks. And then by the time we get there, we're going to walk around the temple, take pictures, and then we're going to come back. So yeah, that's going to be super fun. But also, it's like, what do you do? It's like the in between getting from one place to another. What do you fill your time with? Like that's the thing that I think about. I think it's like, don't waste your time, right? Be preaching or doing something, thinking about Jesus on the way is like kind of what I'm getting. Okay, and then verse 12. Sorry, hold on. It's asking if I wanted to stop. I'm like, no, I don't want to stop. And let my servant Lyman White beware of, for Satan desireth to sift him as chaff. And behold, he that is faithful shall be made ruler over many things. And again, I will give unto you a pattern in all things, that ye may not be deceived. For Satan is abroad in the land, and he goeth forth deceiving the nations. Okay, so the pattern to avoid being deceived. Lyman White had been baptized in Kirtland. At this June conference, he was ordained a high priest, and now the Lord was calling him to be one of the first to go to Missouri. The Lord also gave Lyman a warning that Satan desires to sift him as chaff. Chaff is the part of wheat that is separated when the wheat is tossed into the air. The chaff is lighter than the wheat, so the wind can carry it off, leaving the wheat kernels falling to the ground. Just as chaff is separated from the wheat, Satan desired to carry Lyman away from the gospel of Jesus Christ. The Lord saw something in Lyman that he warned him about. Lyman will prove to be a devoted and courageous servant. He will serve multiple missions, will be part of Zion's camp, will be imprisoned with Joseph in Liberty Jail, will be ordained an apostle, and more. However, with Joseph Smith, when Joseph Smith will die, Lyman will be unable to follow any other leader and will end up leading a group to Texas. The Lord then verified that Satan was in fact abroad in the land, and he goeth forth deceiving the nations. President Boyd K. Packer taught this. It says, Satan is determined to disrupt our Heavenly Father's plan and seeks to control the minds and actions of all. This influence is spiritual, and he is abroad in the land. Ooh, end quote. President Boyd K. Packer, Counsel to Youth, October 2011, General Conference. That's true, huh? Okay, verse 15. Wherefore he that prayeth whose spirit is contrite, the same is accepted of me, if he obey mine ordinances. He that speaketh whose spirit is contrite, whose language is meek, and edifieth, the same is of God, and he obey mine ordinances. And again, he that trembleth under my power shall be made strong, and shall bring forth fruits of praise and wisdom according to the revelations and truths which I have given you. And again, he that is overcome and bringeth not forth fruits, even according to this pattern, is not of me. Wherefore by this pattern ye shall know the spirits in all cases under the whole heavens. And the days have come according to men's faith, it shall be done unto them. Behold, this commandment is given unto all the elders whom I have chosen. And again, verily I say unto you, let my servant Thomas B. Marsh and my servant Ezra Thayer take their journey also, and preaching the word by the way unto this same land. Okay, so this is a similar pattern that the Lord has been teaching Joseph Smith since the beginning of the Restoration. The Lord has used individuals as examples for Joseph to know which kind of people he was influenced by, from Martin Harris to Oliver Cowdery, to his own family, and then to others, including Hiram Page, the Knight family, Sidney Rigdon, and others. The Lord continues to tutor Joseph and all of the elders regarding who is and who is not serving God. This pattern can also help the men who were about to leave for Missouri, preaching along the way. Will they be true teachers? Yeah. Okay, verse 23. And again, let my servants Isaac Morley and my servant Ezra Booth take their journey, also preaching the word by the way, unto this same land. And again, let my servants Edward Partridge and Martin Harris take their journey with my servants Sidney Rigdon and Joseph Smith Jr. Let my servants David Whitmer and Harvey Whitlock also take their journey and preach by the way unto the same land. And let my servants Parley P. Pratt and Orson Pratt take their journey and preach by the way even unto this same land. And let my servants Solomon Hancock and Simeon Carter also take their journey unto this same land and preach by the way. Let my servants Edson Fuller and Jacob Scott also take their journey. Let my servants Levi W. Hancock and Zebedee Coltrane also take their journey. This is like the missionary roll call, right? Let my servants Reynolds Cahoon and Samuel H. Smith also take their journey. Let my servants Wheeler Baldwin and William Carter also take their journey. And let my servants Newell Knight and Sella J. Griffin both be ordained and also take their journey. Yea, verily I say, let all these take their journey unto one place in their several courses. And one man shall not build up upon another's foundation, neither journey in another's track. Okay, so they all had to go different directions. That's wild. And they couldn't be like all together. So pretty interesting, right? He that is faithful, the same shall be kept and blessed with much fruit. And again, I say unto you, let my servants Joseph Wakefield and Solomon Humphrey, I just spit, take their journey into the eastern lands. Let them labor with their families, declaring none other things than the prophets and apostles, that which they have seen and heard, and most assuredly believe that the prophecies may be fulfilled. In consequence of transgression, let that which was bestowed upon Heman Bassett be taken from him. Ooh, okay. All right, Heman. And placed upon the head of Simon's rider. And again, verily I say unto you, let Jared Carter be ordained a priest, and also George James to be ordained a priest. Okay, so although little is said specifically about each of these elders, it is a good reminder to all of us that the Lord knows each of us by name. We are each called by him to fulfill an assignment given by him. Although some things may be similar, we are each responsible for that which the Lord has asked us to do. Like these elders, if we are faithful, we too will be crowned with joy and rejoicing, and Christ will lift them up at the last day. So after this revelation, the pairs each went forth, fulfilling the Lord's personal command to each of them. Parley P. Pratt wrote the following of his mission. Okay. Quote, after the business of the conference was over, myself and Orson Pratt were appointed by revelation to perform a mission together through the western states. Soon after the conference, my brother and myself commenced our journey without any means to bear or expenses. We traveled through the states of Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and Missouri in the midst of the heat of summer. Oh yeah, because it was June. On foot. So they did not have horses. Remember, we were like trying to figure that out. And faithfully preached the gospel in many parts of these states. We suffered the hardships incident to a new and in many places unsettled country, such as hunger, thirst, fatigue, etc. Oh, snap. We arrived in Upper Missouri in September, having baptized many people and organized branches of the church in several parts of Ohio, Illinois, and Indiana. So, Parley P. Pratt, end quote. Parley P. Pratt, autobiography of Parley Parker Pratt, also found on archive.org, apparently. Okay, so that's so interesting that they were on foot, heat of the summer, and arrived in Missouri in September, having baptized many people and organized branches of the church in several parts of Ohio, Illinois, and Indiana. So I love that that's how the Lord was trying to make sure that he was getting people in different parts of the country, right? He's just spreading his word. Okay. And then verse 39, let the residue of the elders watch over the churches and declare the word in the regions round about them, and let them labor with their own hands, that there be an idol, right? And like what happened to all all the women that all these guys left, right? Okay. And let them labor with their own hands, that there be no idolatry nor wickedness practiced. And remember in all things the poor and the needy, the sick and the afflicted. For he that doeth not these things, the same is not my disciple. And again, let my servants Joseph Smith Jr. and Sidney Rigdon and Edward Partridge take with them a recommend from the church. And let there be one ordained for my servant Oliver Cowdery also. And thus, even as I have said, if ye are faithful, ye shall assemble yourselves together to rejoice upon the land of Missouri, which is the land of your inheritance, which is now the land of your enemies. Okay, so yeah, I don't know anything about what happened to these women, right? Like these are all men, like, are they young men? Like, were they 20, not married? Were they, I think by 20 they were married, but, you know what I'm saying? Like, where's the women? Anyways, we'll keep reading because I think there's a quote from Lucy Mack Smith that we can read. Okay, and thus, even as I have said, which is the land of your inheritance, which is now the land of your enemies. Okay, but behold, I, the Lord, will hasten the city in its time, and will crown the faithful with joy and with rejoicing. Behold, I am Jesus Christ, the Son of God, and I will lift them up at the last day, even so. Amen. Right? Like, amazing. Just that the Lord's just moving his work across the land in different parts and establishing his church. I just think it's awesome how he does that, right? Like, we can learn from him, like, okay, how can we spread the gospel? It's like, well, we spread it as we go. Wherever we go, we can spread the gospel. I love knowing that. Well, I loved learning, I guess, that, have you heard of the Owl Fox Caraway? So she carries a copy of the Book of Mormon with her wherever she goes, and she reads it so that she can have that conversation with whoever comes on the plane, whenever she's traveling. So I think that's such a good example of, like, preaching on the way, right? Like on the way to your vacation or on the way to your job that takes you somewhere else out of state, or, she's always preaching on the way. And so anyways, I love that example that she set for me for that. I've tried to remember to do that, but it takes a lot of courage, right? And, if you're sitting comfy next to your husband, then, it's hard to, like, I don't know. I think sometimes it's almost harder when there's somebody that I know there, and it's like, oh, I need to preach to this gal, but I don't know what to say because my husband's over there. And I don't know. I feel like sometimes I'm more embarrassed to say real things when I'm with my husband. So maybe it makes sense that these men left their family so that they could have that courage to, like, say stuff. But I don't know. Obviously, I'm just making up excuses for the fact that I don't want to talk to people about the gospel. But so this is my effort. This is my effort to get out of my comfort zone and put my testimony out there and read scriptures together. And so anyway, okay. So here's Lucy Mack Smith's quote, and she wrote of her son Samuel's mission to Missouri. This is what she says: about this time, Joseph received the revelation in which Samuel H. Smith and Reynolds Cahoon were appointed to go together to Missouri. They departed immediately on their mission. Quote, I'm still in the quote, sorry. On their route, Samuel and Brother Cahoon suffered great privations, such as want of rest and food. At the time that they started for Missouri, near 50 others also set out for the same place, all taking different routes, right? Isn't that crazy? And here, let me say that Samuel was never censured by revelation, to my knowledge, for he always performed his missions faithfully and his work was well approved. All, end quote. And isn't that like what you would want for your kid? Like, just like, my son is always did what he was asked, by the Lord. Like, he just was so faithful. So I love that so much. Okay. And then the Lord then promised that as these saints are faithful and do as the Lord asks of them, he will hasten the city in its time. He will help it come faster at an accelerated pace as the saints do their part. Okay, so the Latter-day Saints, here's a quote from President Joseph Fielding Smith. It says, the Latter-day Saints believe that the time will come when they will be called on to build the great temple which shall grace the New Jerusalem, or city of Zion, the capital city of God on this continent. The Latter-day Saints may be assured that when the time comes for the building of the house of the Lord, he will call upon his people who have remained true and have been faithful in the purposes of the Lord, and bringing to pass the salvation of the living and of the dead. When the Lord shall speak, the way shall be opened for the accomplishment of his purposes, and all opposition will melt like the hoarfrost before the rising sun. For thus saith the Lord, I will cut my work short in righteousness, for the days come that I will send forth judgment unto victory. Behold, I will hasten my work in its time. End quote. Joseph Fielding Smith, Doctrines of Salvation. Okay, so that is it. We're going to read it, live it, and we will be done. Okay, here's the read it, live it. And it says this is what we've been saying, okay? So it says, the missionaries leaving from Ohio were instructed to declare the things from the prophets and apostles which they had seen and heard, and most assuredly believe. What have you which they have seen and heard and most assuredly believe. What have you seen from them? What have you heard from them? What do you most assuredly believe? Declare it. Ooh, that's so good. Yeah. And declare it on the way to work, on the way when you're traveling, on the way, wherever you are on the way. Preach with your actions, with your words, always testifying of Jesus Christ. All right. Until Doctrine and Covenants section 53, stay strong, warrior.